Back to fantasy football today, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Let's talk about some running backs here for week 14. Remember, you got 4 teams on a bye, so you don't have Christian McCaffrey. You don't have to make that tough choice between Rico Dowdle or Chuba Hubbard. We don't have the running backs for New England, so you don't have to deal with that crazy mess between TreVeyon Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson. And we don't even know who the starting running back for the Giants is going to be coming off of their bye, because Tyrone Tracy did suffer an injury in the week 13 loss to the Patriots, although he says he's going to be fine, but keep an eye on them. All right, here are the running back rankings 1 through 12. And you don't see a name on this list that you typically see, and that's my fault. And that's Saquon Barkley, because I do not have him ranked as a top 12 running back for this week. So let's just start right there, because Barkley has been miserable. He's been very tough to trust as the guy that we drafted. He's been tough to even say he is a number 2 running back for the last couple of games. 13.1 PPR points or less in 4 straight games. Just had 5.6 points last week in the loss to Chicago. Failed to catch a pass. Hasn't scored a touchdown since week 8. This is not the guy that some people were talking about as a number 1 running back in fantasy this year. The number 1 running back in fantasy. And I know we didn't necessarily agree on that from our standpoint. I don't want to say we've been proven right, but it's been a tough season for Saquon Barkley. So for me, he's still a starter. You're obviously not going to outright bench Saquon Barkley, so whether you start 2 running backs in the flex or 2 running backs, you're starting him. How do you guys feel about Barkley in this matchup against the Chargers? They've been very good against opposing running backs, so it's not even an easy matchup for him. Do we trust him still as that guy?
I feel like they've been kind of uneven against the run this year.
Chargers?
Yes. They have weeks where they look like a really good defense, and they have weeks where it looks like the only thing you could do against them is run, because the pass defense is much better than the run defense. He's not in, as you can see here, the area where I'm considering benching him. He's just right on the edge of the top 12. I'll go ahead and say it. We were right. Like, he wasn't going to be the number 1 running back, but I don't think he's fallen that far. Last week was a disaster. The week before that, he had 14 fantasy points. Like, he's going to be somewhere in that 12 to 14 point range most likely, but I do still think he has the upside. The biggest problem for Saquon Barkley is he's lost about a yard before contact per rush attempt, and that makes things a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and that's a byproduct of the offensive line. And certainly not having Lane Johnson, huge factor on the right side of that line, but also the entire offensive line. Injuries have shuttled people in and out. The left side of the line hasn't been great. He himself hasn't been great. The play calling's been predictable. Defenses are on top of these things, and that's what's made him worse. And then you tack onto that what we discussed before the year started, which is Saquon Barkley's coming off of a massive workload. He's going to be tired. He could wear down. Thank goodness he hasn't gotten hurt, but maybe fantasy managers could almost wish that he had, because then they wouldn't have to think about starting him. I looked at my rankings before the show started today. He was 12th for me, 1 spot ahead of Javonte Williams. That's not going to stay that way. I'm going to move Javonte ahead. He is a high-end number 2 running back for me.
The one thing that I do, and again, I'm the low guy on him, is that this is probably a game, especially if Herbert does not play, where the score doesn't take them out of running.
Right.
And that's what's happened to them a couple of times recently, is that the score has taken the run game away from them. And so maybe they keep this game close, but we just found out Jalen Carter not going to play for the Eagles, so we'll see if that helps the Chargers offense, and maybe we change our opinion about some of the players there. Let's show the list 13 to 24 of the rankings, and Dave, you got a guy on this list in Jalen Warren that's been tough for you to rank, at least for this week.
How do you feel about 12 PPR points from a running back? Now, if it's your low-end number 2
better than Saquon Barkley.
It may be so, but I'm still going to start Saquon Barkley over Jalen Warren, who's splitting time with Kenneth Gainwell. Tough matchup against the Ravens. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I don't think you're going to see a lot of opportunities for Jalen Warren to hit a bunch of home runs like he's done occasionally this year, and he's not even getting the type of target volume that he got once upon a time. Kenneth Gainwell's been getting that, so I'm nervous about Jalen Warren. It goes back to a point that we made in the very first segment of the show. There aren't enough running backs that you can look at and say, oh yeah, definitely start him over Warren or anything else. We're short on studs. So he's going to make the top 24, but for me, he's a low-end number 2 running back.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same range. The one thing that I do like, he's got a touchdown each of the last 2 weeks, and I think from what Mike Tomlin said, and he's typically true to his word with stuff like this, we got to be more physical, we got to run the ball a little bit more. I don't think that lends itself to Kenneth Gainwell. And I know for you don't like Lamar Jackson. The offense obviously been struggling. So if this game stays close, they'll be able to run the ball. Last week they couldn't because of how Buffalo dominated time of possession and obviously ran right through them. So if the game stays competitive, I think Jalen Warren has an opportunity here. But again, we're not saying he's a slam dunk must start guy by any stretch, but still a number 2 running back. And then Heath, for you got Devin Neal as somebody that's a struggle for you, understandably so. Right now, Alvin Kamara not looking like he's going to play, did not practice on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I think the tough thing is this is obviously an awful matchup for rushing the football. But for Saints running backs, rushing the football has been awful all year anyways. That probably doesn't matter. He scored 9.9 fantasy points last week. The week before, he caught 5 passes, had 7 targets. Tyler Shuck has thrown 5 to 7 passes per game to running backs. I think this is like one of the tougher decision points because for me, in full PPR only, he's right at the edge of that RB2 flex range. And so you're going to have a tough decision about whether you're actually going to trust this guy in a full PPR league or not. Do not expect good rushing efficiency. Do not expect a touchdown. But there is the chance that he has 5 or 6 catches in this game and scores you 12 or 13 PPR points.
It's hard to get over somebody who's going to play as much as he is.
Yep.
And 70% of the snaps in the last 2 games. So, again, we don't expect Alvin Kamara to play. So, at worst case, I think you use Devin Neal as a flex. Let's talk about some starts here for Week 14. So, Heath, I'll start with you. Quinshon Judkins. Been a little tough to trust as a must-start guy. I know most people have kept him in that number 2 running back range. This could be one of his better games, though.
Yeah, and this is a sneaky good run defense, I think, because since they've gotten their guys back, they've been much more difficult to run on. But it's arguably the best defense in the league against definitely the worst offense in the league. The Browns are going to play from ahead. They've thrown 45 passes the last 2 games, and one of those they lost by 3 scores. So they would really love it to just run the ball 40 times. I think they'll do that. And Judkins may even catch a pass or 2. If Dylan Sampson's not in there, he'll have a higher share of the rush attempts. He's a guy you've got to start. When I look at the rankings, I feel like I'm more too low on him than too high on him. But the reason we're low on him is the Titans have been so good against rushing efficiency recently, and Judkins has not been.
It's just one of those where they'll just keep knocking on the door and eventually the door will open and he hopefully finds the end zone. I love the fact that he's getting those wildcat opportunities too since Shedeur Sanders has been the quarterback. Dave, you got Zonovan Knight as a start, and as of now, we're not expecting Trey Benson. Now, Amari DiMercado did practice Wednesday on a limited basis, so he's getting closer to being healthy. Does that change anything for you?
That would take away some passing down opportunities from Zonovan Knight, but he was losing a lot of those to Michael Carter anyway. I think that this is their best running back. He's had at least 3 catches in 3 straight games. He's scored in 3 straight games. He's had at least 13.2 PPR points in 3 straight games. And this Rams run defense, once upon a time, they were dominant. 3 running backs in the last 4 weeks against them had 15-plus PPR points. That includes Chuba Hubbard last week. They've given up some touchdowns lately. Maybe not as strong of a run defense as they were earlier in the year. And I think the Cardinals are going to compete with the Rams in this game. High-scoring affair. I want to have players in this matchup. The best running back for Arizona is Zonovan Knight. He's the number 2 running back for me.
Since Trey Benson got hurt, I believe it's only 2 games where Knight has not got at least 9.4 PPR points or more. So the floor is very safe. Mm-hmm. And the ceiling, as we've seen, 13-plus PPR points in 3 in a row because he's found the end zone. So I think Zonovan Knight is in that number 2 running back range. For me, I'm going to go back to DeAndre Swift. And I know it's kind of been, can we trust him? What's this going to look like? Kyle Monangai, all this stuff. I think the Packers' run defense is going to be a little bit of trouble. Since Devontae Wyatt getting hurt last week, we saw what this run defense could potentially look like. Certainly last week it was bad for them. But you've seen now 3 running backs on the season. The Giants had Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary. The Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And I think this is going to be the 3rd time where Swift and Kyle Monangai both get an opportunity to run well. This is what the Bears' offense is. Their offensive line is doing a great job run blocking at this point. And Ben Johnson, we saw it in Detroit. We're seeing it now in Chicago. The rushing attack is just fantastic. And I think Swift has a chance for another good game. Let's talk about some running backs to sit. So, Dave, I'll start with you. Kareem Hunt. Last week, not great. The 3 previous games, great. Is it just Isaiah Pacheco or is it the matchup?
It's the matchup and it's the offensive line. It's got nothing to do with Isaiah Pacheco, but that offensive line, both tackles look like they're going to be out. One's already on injured reserve. The other one, Juwan Taylor, looks like he's unlikely to play. Trey Smith, the guard, he's unlikely to play. This is a tough spot for Kareem Hunt against Houston, who's been pretty good against the run, I would say. The Texans just did a nice job against Jonathan Taylor last week. So if they're going to do a good job against Jonathan Taylor, you know Kareem Hunt's in trouble.
They've only given up 2 touchdowns on the ground, because I know we're all going to say Kareem Hunt needs to score a touchdown. 2 touchdowns on the ground to running back since week 7. So if he doesn't score, we saw 9 PPR points. That's probably the ceiling, I would say, for Kareem Hunt if he does not find the end zone. Heath, for you, David Montgomery tonight. No bueno?
No bueno. The last 3 weeks have really been no bueno. He got a touchdown in one of those games, but 6, 5, and 8 rush attempts for David Montgomery in his last 3 games. He only had 2 games prior to Dan Campbell taking over play calling where he had single-digit rush attempts. So his role has fallen off. He hasn't played in 40% of the snaps in the last 3 weeks. This offense is going more to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you probably have to do that more if there's no Amon-Ra St. Brown so that you can throw the ball to Gibbs more. So Montgomery is a touchdown-dependent flex. I don't really even want to flex him.
We talk about difference makers, and the Cowboys, when they acquired Quinnen Williams and acquired Logan Wilson. So in the last 3 games, they are number 1 and fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. That includes matchups with Saquon Barkley and Ashton Genty. Like, that's how good they have been.
Yeah.
And so the best performance against them was Kareem Hunt, 14 carries, 58 yards. Like, they are just eliminating running backs. So you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, you're still going to start him. I don't think anybody's going to get away from him because of his role in the passing game. But David Montgomery, if he doesn't score a touchdown, is just absolutely miserable. So with what they've done and the opponents that they've done it against, like, this defense has just completely turned around, and I don't think you could trust David Montgomery at all. For me, I'm going to get away from Woody Marks. And this is frustrating because it's been 3 straight games of 17-plus touches. The role in the passing game has been non-existent, which is what we liked about him when he first started to make some fantasy production and be a part of this Texans offense. But he's got 3 catches in his last 3 games, 1 in each contest, and you're looking at a Chiefs defense that is still very good. So this feels like a low-scoring game based on how these two defenses will probably play, certainly with the Chiefs offense and some of the struggles that we could be looking at. I just don't think you could trust Woody Marks at this point. So hopefully he finds the end zone. Last week the touchdown went to Nick Chubb that easily could have been marked, and I think we feel a lot better about it. But just looking at the situation right now, Woody Marks a flex option at best, and that says something given the week of where we're talking about with 4 teams on a bye and some of the running backs. So there's your look at some starts and sits at the running back position. We're going to take a break now. We come back and get into the wide receivers that you need to start. This is feeling, wide receiver and tight end starts to feel a little bit better. So as the show goes on, we get to some of the players we like a little bit more. So we'll tell you about the wide receivers to start and sit next here on Fantasy Football Today.